That was the goal. I told people, like, I don't mind doing a pro-black shirt. I want to do pro-black clothing because that's closer to me, but I don't want to be anti-white.
Yeah, I think it's important to not necessarily redefine what black is, but to re-explain.
Hi, this is Pyerse Dandridge of Lex Pyerse Clothing, and you're tuned into Suavv Sessions.
All right, so before we jump into the interview, you know we got to get popping with a lot of the business stuff. So in the meantime, while we're getting that situated, make sure you guys are subscribing to the magazine. Make sure you subscribe. Make sure you hit that like button. Turn your notifications on so that you can see when we post new videos, new content. Share with your friends, your circle, your family, co-workers. I don't care who you share with. Just share the video. Share other videos, watch other videos, and leave comments, man. Let us know what you guys think about the interview, about other interviews, what kind of direction you want us to go into. If you are enjoying what you're watching thus far, all those things are important because we want to make sure that we're giving you the content that you're looking for. So all that said, let's get to it.
Fashion is a huge industry. How did you get involved in fashion? When did that start for you?
Started at a young age, actually. My mom, Sonia Smith, she was a fashion designer, actually, in Sacramento, California. And, you know, we bounced around from like Santa Barbara to Sacramento to Lodi. And she was putting on fashion shows. She was making wedding dresses by hand. At one point, she was even making our own clothes, like, you know, our school clothes. She was actually making those. You know, when we did go to church, it was time she made our suits from hand. So, I mean, we would go down to like Joanne Fabrics or whatever store down there. Like, what kind of fabric you want? I want this gray one with the pinstripes. You know, 3 days later, she's making a double-breasted suit.
Wow.
You know, yeah.
So, where did she learn to be a seamstress?
My grandmother.
Okay.
So my grandma taught her at 5 how to sew and all that stuff. And matter of fact, my mom had actually taught my niece at age 5 how to sew.
Wow.
So my niece can actually sew a little bit too. Now she doesn't sew to the degree of my mom, but she does sew.
Okay.
In fact, she's a better, like, I can kind of touch a, like, I know what to do, but I have a fear of needles. So
it's not a good combination. Like, a fear of needles and the sewing machine don't really go together too well.
And it's funny, my mom was actually going to show me how to sew, but she was like, you know, and I guess as she was showing me, she was like, you gotta be careful because, you know, if you put your hand in the wrong way, then the needle will go through your hand. I'm like, I'm good.
We're done.
Good. Sorry. We're done here. Yeah.
We're done.
Don't worry about this anymore.
All good. No, thank you. So you're growing up in this atmosphere of seamstress and creative people when it comes to clothing. When did you decide you wanted to go in your own route and create clothes yourself?
That happened. See, when I talk about my mom, that was like in the 80s and 90s. So it wasn't until like 2018 or so that I started doing, you know, I got to figure this job thing out. You know, here I'm in my 40s. You know, it's really difficult, getting a decent job, even though I live in LA. And mind you, my life is actually not bad. I mean, at the time, I was a production assistant working on different web series and films. I was doing DoorDash, and DoorDash was actually enough to maintain the bills, but I wanted more.
Yeah.
And I just couldn't get to that next level. So I was like, you know what? Let me just figure out how to be an entrepreneur. Also, too, I started getting all these disabilities started kicking in and all that stuff. Congenital diseases, degenerating disc, and the doctor was saying, hey, you need to stop doing DoorDash because it's hurting you. So I'm like, okay, well, if I'm injured and hurt, it's going to be harder to find a job. Even though there's all these disability rights, it's still hard to go in and get a job. So I was like, all right, I got to figure this entrepreneur thing out quick. And I was going YouTube University, and they were like, yeah, one of the easiest businesses to start is a t-shirt business. So I was like, all right, let me just take a look at the t-shirt business. And I figure, you know, even if it bellies up, maybe there's some skills I can learn and take that to the next level. Just kind of use this as a way to learn,
Right.
if anything. So I decided, okay, you know, there was like, you know, find something you like, something you would wear, something that fits your personality, and try to niche down as much as possible. That way you can reach a certain demographic instead of trying to reach everybody. And I was like, after playing around with some really bad designs, I went on Fiverr, and I was like, all right, I just want a word. And just kind of playing around and see what was on there. And they had this thing called word clusters, you know, or a word cloud, something like that. I was like, and in the word cloud, it said, it was like Google and all these other kind of weird things. They had all these different designs and colors. I was like, what if you took the word black and I put words in there, inside the word black, that mean black, right? And this is like 2008, late 2018. And so I came up with the word black, and I said, okay, I'm going to put in Pan-African colors. I wasn't sure which scheme, but I wanted Pan-African colors. And then I went online to do some research on what black means. You know, what does black mean for people? I was calling, and I got to the point where I was frustrated. Like, I couldn't find like nothing that meant black clicked to me. You know what I mean? Yeah. And then I was like, you know what? I'm gonna ask my friends, say, you know, what does black mean to you? And then I thought about it, and I just thought in my head, and mind you, the thoughts in my head are very crude sometimes. They're very straightforward, because it's really the only way to get to me. And the thought was, you've been black for 41 years. If any other person in an industry had been doing something for 10 plus years or 40 plus years, they would be an expert. So isn't it fair to assume that you might be an expert at being black? Like, people will ask you what a black is. So why don't you just say what black is? Yeah. And so I came up with like 20, 30 words, and the ones that popped out was compelling, adventurous, loyal, resilient, and grateful. And I'm like, wait a minute, that literally describes everybody I know. Yeah. You know, like I sit back and think about black people. I'm thinking like, okay, I go in this feed, and there's a friend of mine I ain't seen in a while. She is scared of heights, but she wants to get over heights, so she goes on a zip cord in some jungle in South America. You know what I mean? Like, okay, that's pretty damn adventurous. You know, like my parents are always, you know, traveling, trying new things, you know, cruises and boats and jet skis. I'm like, we're always out doing things. Like, you know, I've seen black people bungee jumping, you know, stuff like that. So that's why she was adventurous. You know, my mom has always been like a tomboy. They grew up in the country. So I've known her to like wrestle dudes like in 6 feet and bigger, you know, like that to me, that's how I came up with adventurous. I'm like, yo, we're not just laying around playing video games, like we're actually doing things, getting our hands dirty, you know? Yeah. Compelling was because they're always taking our stuff. You know, it's like, we gotta see what's going on over here. Like, we need a new trend, we need a new style, let's go over here, you know? And also I kind of feel like no matter how much you hate us, you still talking about us. It must be because you like us, or you're intrigued by us, or you're something like that. Or, you know, you got these non-black people, they was like, you know, tell me about black people. And it's interesting because it's like, we've been here for 400 years. How you just now learning about us? Like, why are you still asking us questions? You know what I mean? Yeah. So that's where compelling came from. You know, loyal, actually, it's funny, loyal came up because every black man I know is still married to their wife. My dad has been married to my mom for 30 years, 35 probably now. I got uncles and aunts that have been married for 30 plus. You know, my grandparents, when my grandfather was alive, they were married for 55 years. You know what I mean? So I'm like, every marriage I know has been 10 plus. So I'm like, I was loyal. So that's where loyal came from. Grateful and resilient. And like I said, that was just going back to the family where it's like, okay, every Black person I know was grateful for what's happened to them and where they got from. You know, I do them a favor. They're totally grateful. I got friends right now out here in LA, and they're still grateful for things I did for them in 2017.
Yeah.
So I'm like, you know, so that's where it came in. And plus, I'm grateful. You know, I still feel like I owe people favors for giving me the confidence to start the brand.
Yeah.
You know, like I came on set one day and I was like, what do you think about this word? They're like, let me know when that gets printed. I'm gonna need 2 of those. I'm like, and it's just a copy, you know, like it's just like I'm still trying to figure it all out, you know. And then resilient, that's just because, you know, even in my life, you know, we always try to make, I've been trying to make from being a convicted felon with a disability and just still staying positive, still being optimistic, still loving my people. To me, that's a sign of resilience. But then you look at our history, what we came through, you know, it's just resilient, you know, there's no way to describe it. And that's how, I think that's why this is working. This is like, okay, I'm gearing it towards not just our history, but you as an individual. And I think the fact that I personalized the word Black based on my life, I think that's what's making this stand out.
Yeah, I think it's important to not necessarily redefine what Black is, but to re-explain. Because the definition, like, we understand it very well. We, as Black people, we know what being Black is. But I think the fact that like other cultures and other demographics don't really fully understand us, and we're constantly trying to reaffirm what that is. I think the fact that you have that within your shirt and within your brand is extremely important.
Thank you.
Because people need to associate more of those positive words with Blackness instead of the association with like negative attributes, negative words, negative actions. So I think that's amazing in itself.
Yeah, thank you. And so what I did was, like the next thing we did was, my boy in Mozambique, JK New NC, he has been like I almost want to call him like the mastermind of this project, because when I came up with this idea, he's the boy I can go to and say, here's the good Black, good, bad, and the ugly. And he can give me the raw cut, you know, direct feedback. And we was talking because he loved this. And he was like, you know, you really should gear that towards Africans as well. So like, yeah, it makes sense, but how would I do that? Like, and I told him, like, I don't know if I'm the right person for that, because the closest I've been to Africa was Las Vegas. And he was like, bruh, don't worry about it. And so what we did was we came up with, I went with his home country, which is Mozambique.
Okay.
And I used the international abbreviation MZQ. And I took the Mozambican modern flag and I put it behind it. And it's basically, I colored it MZQ with the Mozambican flag. Mm-hmm. And then I went on like Wikipedia, some things like, and I was like, okay, well, what do the colors mean in Mozambique? But I put those into a cluster. It's like I did this right here. So what it started looking like was I could have a Mozambican flag here with a black hat, and that could be a message.
Yeah.
You know, if I wanted to. Or I could have a black hat and a shirt that says wealth in the same word cluster still that I had, and that could be a message. Now, obviously it says black wealth, but, you know, the individual would describe what it actually means.
Right.
You know what I mean? And so I started playing around with different African meanings and words. For Mozambique, I did the MZQ, and I did 1975. 1975 is the year of Mozambique independence from Portugal. Okay. So, and I do the same word scheme as I did with the Mozambique flag with a MZQ design. You know.
So when you start that, because I know for Black people, Black Americans, we tend to feel like there's a divide between us and Africans. And there's the mindset that there's not a full connection between the two, which I think a lot of those things are misconceptions, misunderstandings, and miscommunications, because we're not necessarily talking to Africans, and Africans aren't necessarily talking to Black Americans. So did you feel like creating that shirt was something that could mend that relationship? Was that something that you're gearing that towards?
I think it would have. Now, I do think it's going to be kind of a challenge, because I was told by many Black Americans to not do African-based T-shirts and designs. However, I'm finding that there's a lot of Black Americans that are like, they applaud it, you know, for a reason that you just said, you know, hey, you're bridging the gap. You're showing the connection between us. And for me, I'm like, a Mozambican shirt, a Nigerian shirt, a Ghanaian shirt, that's another form of Blackness, okay? Now, with respect to the cultures, I understand that a Ghanaian shirt is gonna mean something different to a Ghanaian than it does to me. And if that's the case, great, I did my job. But I do wanna wear a Ghanaian shirt to show like, yeah, I'm African too. You know, I understand the culture. I am putting you guys in the best light possible, which is why when I did a Ghanaian shirt, I actually contacted as many Ghanaians as I knew, but like, is this a fair representation of you?
Right.
And when I did that, like, hell yeah. Because of that, I actually now have a relationship with someone in Texas that I'm working with, and we're supposed to be going to Ghana to sell shirts and stuff, shirts and hats and stuff.
What do you want people to feel when they're wearing your clothing?
I was supposed to do a shoot a year ago, and I was talking to the DP, and one thing I told him was, when they wear this black shirt, it needs to have the same feel as a Mexican wearing his flag on his chest. It needs to have the same amount of pride, the same amount of relevance, because when a Mexican wears his shirt on his chest, it's his whole heritage. It's so, you know, history, and it's a resemble of himself. And I feel like that's what I feel when I wear this shirt. I also feel like I'm saying, hey, this is actually positive. This is actually uplift. This is for all of us. And I noticed that it does change the frequency when I walk into a room when I wear it, to where I feel like people are more positive, more like positive towards me. You know, obviously there's a couple of people that I get a little sideways, but you know, aside from that, most people are like, yo, I actually like what you did there with that shirt. It's not overbearing. It's not preachy. It's nice, you know.
Which is, it's weird because like I think we're one of the only cultures, which I may be mistaken, but I feel like we're one of the only cultures where it's very evident that we're Black, but we never want to make people uncomfortable with proclaiming that we're Black. And it's weird, and it's something that's always been iffy and tricky. Like, it's, you can be Irish and be proud and wear Irish flags. You can be French and be proud. Italian, cool, got you. From the UK, cool. It's like, if you really start looking at Black people and saying, we don't really do the Black and proud thing because we don't want anyone to make it, to be uncomfortable with it. We don't wear like shirts with fist on it because we don't want you to be uncomfortable. We don't really do too much I'm Black on our stuff because we don't want it to come off the wrong way. So it's, the way that you did it is really smart, because it's not something that makes the Black person wearing it uncomfortable, and it shouldn't make the person that is being received by it uncomfortable as well.
That was the goal. I told people, like, I don't mind doing a pro-Black shirt. I want to do pro-Black clothing because that's closer to me, but I don't want to be anti-white.
Right.
You know what I mean? Like going back to the Mexican example that I gave you, Mexicans don't wear their shirt because they hate white people. You know, matter of fact, I've never met, I mean, I have Mexicans in my family, and when they wear their shirts, they don't think about anybody but Mexicans.
Right.
Or themselves or their family. And so when I wear this shirt and I have to explain to people, like, it ain't about you. It's about us.
Yeah.
You know, it's not about, you know, what people have done to us, what they didn't to us. I am celebrating Blackness. I'm celebrating myself. I'm celebrating what Black people have done for me. I am celebrating what I'm doing for Black people. That's it. If you read anything negative about that, you put it there.
Yeah. Let's start. Is it unisex? Are there male, female?
I have unisex. I have women's cut. I have sports bras now, and I have leggings. I also have hats. Actually, funny story about the hats. I actually was not going to sell the hat. I was so like centered on the word cluster. Like I thought this was what it had to be. And so when I first got the draft of the hat, I'm like, no, I'm done with it. But I'm like, but I need to sell more things than just t-shirts. So I went and got the hat again. I got another print of the hat, and I sent it to my boy in Oakland, JK, and he was like, you need to sell that hat. You need to sell those hats, bro. I'm like, I'll do it. I do it reluctantly. So I bought myself a sample one. I was like, okay, you're right. We gotta sell that hat. I mean, because it's the embroidery is what makes it pop.
Yeah.
You know. So and then also too, let me just throw one thing out there. It's not just the word Black. I also started adding other words such as king, queen, boss. Power is my new favorite one. And they all have the same black, yellow, and green. Sorry, red, yellow, green design. But I just felt like the different wording is just not just the affirmation to the individual, but it does show the Blackness behind it. You know, it doesn't just need to say Black to be Blackness. It could be king and still be Black. It could be affirm and still be Black. I affirm coming soon. You know, another one we use is inspired. And inside those words is Black man, Black woman, Black girl, Black boy.
Yeah. And
I was just kind of experimenting with that, but it turned out that meant a lot to some people. You know what I mean? So yeah, it's different affirmations, and inside I pack it full of different meanings and stuff like that. Yeah, and that's how the entire line is like. So if you feel the need to like having a wealth hat and inspire shirt, that's your message. And no, those don't quite say Black on it. However, if you know Black culture and you know Black people, inspire and wealth is a Black message.
It's a combination that you need. Like you need inspiration to create wealth. You need wealth to give other people inspiration. I mean, it's dope how you can like throw those together and kind of like create your message just by putting on different pieces. So I love that.
Exactly.
Okay, where can people get your line?
The best way to get it is LexPyerse.com, LexPyerse.com. There's everything on there. We represent right now. We have gear from Nigeria, Ghana, Haiti, Jamaica, and just two more I can think of right on top of my head. Also, we have affirmations such as power, inspire, wealth, and the list goes on.
Perfect.